The second thing that INSEAD's taught me, or people at INSEAD have taught me, is they've helped me understand growth and goals better. So a lot of times I would associate personal growth with progress in my professional career, wherein if I get a promotion next, I'm doing like super well in life. I've just realized over time that growth can come from different things. It doesn't have to be like your career itself, and you don't have to derive your identity from just your career.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Roll Call, where we help you answer your questions on all things MBA, career, and life. So let us know what's your question.
Our guest today can spend hours talking about technology, and we hope to get a bite of his fascination today. He graduated from BITS Pilani in India and worked for 2 years in business analytics.
His passion for the subject later took him to pursue a master's in business analytics from National University of Singapore. After graduation, he worked for Swiss Re in Singapore in a special role in digital and smart analytics.
Last year, he started his MBA journey at INSEAD, and after an eventful year at the school, he bagged an associate role in McKinsey & Company's Dubai office. And while he waits to join his new company in a new country, he's spending his time interviewing people from around the world for his new podcast.
So, ladies and gentlemen, meet Prakash. Prakash, how does it feel to be on the other side of the interview?
I think it feels special. You guys make me seem like a superstar. So thanks for production. And looking forward to the interview itself.
The pleasure is truly ours, and we are really excited to hear your take on MBA career and life. Prakash, when we spoke earlier, Sugandha and I, we could both see your deep interest in the fields of data science and technology. How are you so passionate about these fields?
So I think my journey with technology was or data science or analytics was when I was much younger. So growing up, I was a sports geek and I like numbers. Those are the only two things in my life. So as a 6-year-old, I could see myself watching TV. It could be anything, right? From watching a test match, a boring test match on day 3 and just being glued to TV, to tennis, to everything out there. And then what I would do is I would go back to school and have these conversations with a lot of friends on why this player is better than that. And subconsciously you start creating these, backing your arguments up using a lot of stats, saying this guy's batting average is much better or someone else's first serve percentage is better. So subconsciously I used a lot of data to support my arguments. And fast forward, when I was in college, I just got to know of this one field called analytics, where you could do the same for businesses. And I was just fascinated after that. So I decided to start a pharmacy degree, the one that I was doing my undergrad in, and I decided let's do this. And I interviewed for a startup in the analytics consulting space. And once I got in, I was like, man, this is what I want to do for the rest of life. So that's how the whole analytics bug bit me, and technology, I guess, was just a byproduct of that.
So, what have been the most interesting projects you've worked in these sectors? Like, could you give us like a highlight reel?
Yeah. So, when you put the question across like that, it makes me seem pretty old. Like I've been a veteran or something of that sort. But looking back, I think there were a few that do stand out for me. Maybe I can start off with the first project that I ever did. So I walked into this company and I've been assigned to work with a casino. And the first project was they asked me to define what luck was and the impact of luck on customer spends. For me, that was fascinating because luck at the end of the day is very irrational, right? And imagine someone's asking you to use numbers and look at the patterns of play in a casino to define how luck is and how you end up, how it affects different people. So that was super fascinating for me. And it was great that that was my first project. So I really liked what I was doing. The second thing that comes to my mind is during my time at Flipkart. So I joined Flipkart when I was 20 and I was super young. And here, this was this one company that was changing the way people shop and getting a lot of people online. And I was tasked to lead the whole home and furniture unit and help them with their analytics. And for me, like creating a new category and then looking at how some of these mathematical models that I was building, things like price elasticity and stuff, and how that was leading to real-time impact in terms of how much sales were being made. That was a great journey in itself. And another one was, again, like you mentioned, I was at Swiss Re, right? So a lot of people, when they think of Swiss Re or insurance, they think it's super boring. But insurance as a field is something which has a lot of data. So if you're someone who's a geek around data and you want to like build your models, there's nothing better than insurance. And here I came on board, and this mentor of mine gave me this huge data set which had like the lives of 27 million people in Japan over years, and it was hundreds of GB of data. And he was like, just go build some insurance products. And for me, I didn't own, like, I didn't really pay for insurance till that point. It was my father who was paying, or I was covered as part of the school's insurance. So for me, for someone who's not even bought insurance, to actually go ahead and build products and do this over a span of 2-3 months and come up with things that I think would make sense was extremely challenging. And at the end of the day, the results were pretty rewarding. So I think these were the kind of projects that I did, and there were quite a few that I didn't mention, but overall, I found the whole space super exciting to work in.
So this is really fascinating to hear, Prakash, especially about your work and the projects. And in fact, if there's one thing that I can conclude from your journey till now, it is that parents make sure that you're putting your kids in sports. You never know how they come up with data and analytics and whatnot. So it's an inspiring journey, and clearly you liked your work so much. Then why did you decide to take a break and go for your MBA?
Yeah, firstly, I second that about sport. So I think sport does offer so many intangibles that people don't realize. So I was pretty lucky to play a lot of sport and watch stuff. Again, coming back to why I decided to do my MBA. So I was lucky to have this amazing boss of mine, Matthias Fischer at Swiss Re. So he was that one guy who taught me how to plan my career out. And those conversations did actually push me to taking this decision. So I was at that one point in my career wherein 5 years into working, you have to choose between being a specialist or a generalist. And when I look back at my career and reflected, I realized that I was someone who just liked doing a lot of different things. And though I loved coding and like building a lot of these products that I knew that there could be other things that would interest me. So I decided to become more of a generalist. And while thinking of how I could actually make that transition, that's where the MBA came in. I decided to do INSEAD specifically because for me, I wanted to double down on Asia. So Asia was where I thought I would want to build my career. And if I thought of all the B schools out there, INSEAD actually fit in really well because it was a 1-year school and it was in Singapore and I could work around here. So once I applied, I did get an admission. And then I was like, how could I rapidly learn a lot about business models and things that I didn't know much about? So I ended up actually doing a pre-MBA internship as well in the VC space. So I packed my bags the day I got my offer and I finished my time at Swiss Re, came back home to Bombay. So Bombay is not home, but yeah, I did come back to Bombay. Decided to work with this really cool venture capital firm called Lightbox Ventures. They do early stage investing in the consumer tech space. So every day listening to all these pitches, I would have like maybe evaluated around 500 and just looking at those different business models out there, right? That was an education in itself. And and the people that I was working with were super kind and they helped me understand how they view business. So I thought that kind of education did help me even before my MBA, wherein I could see different things and I could actually absorb a lot of different perspectives, right from the founders to the investors. So that was pretty cool. So this was my transition into why I did my MBA and how I got to that point.
So now we know about your two career interests, of course, technology being the first love, and then VC happened and you got interested in VC as well. How did INSEAD support you in honing these two interests?
Okay, so if I have to think about INSEAD, even before my interest, the one thing that INSEAD offers that most schools or most places don't is the kind of diversity and that ability to get so many different people from so many different countries in the room. I mean, if you have to draw a parallel, you either have to be in the Olympics or maybe the United Nations to sit in a class with like 60, 70 nationalities at least, right? So the first thing that I did was I over-indexed on knowing all my classmates because I thought all of them had fascinating stories. There were some people who were like running counterintelligence operations in like 20 countries, or there were others who were Olympians and master chefs and like and are really smart, humble people who are happy to have those conversations. So what I did first was I just spent the first part of my MBA having these conversations and getting to know as many people as I can. Sometimes over beer, sometimes over food, sometimes over just a normal conversation. And when I did that, I think it opened up my views on a lot of different things. Coming to the aspect of the career aspect of things that INSEAD offered me, uh, it did help me with my internships on one side. So unlike most people, I did two internships because I found both of them very fancy. The first one was with a music streaming service because who can say no to working with music and in an office which is so creative. So here I worked on building the whole A/B testing strategy for the whole company, and it was fascinating to see how like the add-on. Like I knew that I understood the technology know-how before, but INSEAD taught me all those. I mean, your business acumen does go up quite a bit. So I could see that at play in 4 or 5 or 6 months of me being in INSEAD. I could see that I was a different person, and it really helped me understand how the culture was and how I could deliver something so impactful in a short time. The second internship that I did was in the VC space. It was growth stage investing with Chiming Ventures. So it's a super big Chinese fund which has about $4 billion in assets under management. And I was looking at India for them. So it was super fascinating working out of Singapore and doing this. And another thing that INSEAD did help me out was in the clubs space. So I was actually leading the technology, the TMT club as we call it, which is basically telecommunications, media, and technology. So here again, I was as part of the leadership. One thing I realized through a lot of these conversations is the technical know-how of INSEAD was not at the level that I wanted it to be. So I was helping increasing the community's intelligence when it comes to technology. So brought in a lot of different initiatives. And one thing that does stand out for me is product games. So running product games, that was super fascinating.
Um, could you tell us a bit more about your experience with product games? Because we know that there's you had quite a good rendezvous with it, right? So could you tell us more about your experience with it?
True, yeah. So product games, like I'll just help people understand what product games is. So product games was started in 2018, I think, and the whole idea was that they wanted to increase product thinking within business school students. It was started at INSEAD, and it's an INSEAD run competition globally. So in terms of how it works, you're given a problem, like a technology problem. So there was one around how you could increase the adoption of voice as a technology, and you had to go ahead and build a product. So in terms of building a product, you're just creating specifications, understanding how to build the MVP, how do you take it to market, and everything around that, like what a product manager would do. And it's held in like two phases. The first one is you pitch in your idea, and I mean, it's a fully detailed deck that you send across to INSEAD, and you're shortlisted. And if you make it to the top four globally, then you're supported with a lot of uh, I mean, you have a lot of mentorship from companies like Google and the likes, who help you build this product out, and that is what you present in the finals. So the story that I had with INSEAD was like you guys and like a lot of other people who were waiting to join INSEAD. I was just scrolling through the website and I came across this competition, and this was the blurb that I came across, the one around voice. And I found it super fascinating, and I knew that I wanted to participate. But the caveat was you had to be an MBA student, and this was a couple of months before my MBA started. So I decided to ignore it, and I formed a team. I just randomly looked up INSEAD's directory and reached out to three other friends. Uh, I mean, people who became friends later, but three people from my class, and they were from different time zones, and all of them readily agreed. So four of us sat down, brainstormed, and put in our application, and we built this particular product for voice called Yo Nanny. So it was nanny for babies, but it was basically something like Alexa, but it would talk to babies. And we designed the whole product, like we everything around it. And then once we did and we submitted, we made it to the top four. And and the current leadership, which was which was conducting the whole competition, they were pretty surprised that someone who didn't really enroll into the MBA actually participated in it. Luckily, they let us in, and we ended up putting up a good show. We didn't win it, but it was, I think, one of my biggest experiences, just collecting feedback and iterating on the product. What we did next was as part of the leadership, we conducted the same again. And this time we had like 150 teams participate. So the number of teams doubled, and we had nearly every single school from the top 50 B schools across the world participate, and just conducting it and making sure that it ran smoothly. I think it added a lot to my own leadership ability. So that was one part that I really loved about INSEAD.
Perfect. That was the most interesting story that we have heard so far from any INSEAD alum. That was really interesting. So cut to your recruitment phase, right? You received multiple job offers, including a coveted associate role in McKinsey's digital practice in Dubai, right? So first of all, congratulations for that. And second, what are you most excited about as a McKinsey consultant?
Thanks for that. Maybe I could just take the viewers through my journey. Like I did mention, right? I was at INSEAD just to know people and just to get to learn as much from people. And I wasn't very sure where my career was going. So I was one of those people who wasn't sure that I wanted to do consulting or VC or like product or whatever. And what I decided during my recruitment process was I would apply to every job that I was remotely interested in, and I would delay the decision of choosing a job once I have a few offers in place. So I was lucky enough to get this role with McKinsey. And the part that actually sealed the deal for me was it was me specializing in the digital practice, because I thought that was something that I always wanted to work on throughout my career. So in terms of me choosing McKinsey, I think the brand's great, but the part that really appealed to me was the scale of problems that you were solving and the kind of different problems. Like a lot of, not just McKinsey, but the other few coveted consulting firms, they give you like a huge canvas to paint on. Like it could be some of the most pressing problems in the world, along with it gives you like a variety of problems. So for me, like if I look back at my career, I saw that I really like solving things in different industries or different kind of problems. And McKinsey gave me that. So that did seal the deal for me. And that's how it worked out. And I'm glad that I'll be joining them soon.
So you haven't joined McKinsey yet. In fact, you're going to join them next year. Now, what have you been up to in the meantime?
Yeah, so I did graduate in 2019 December, and I was supposed to join them right after. But then for me, I mean, it was both. It was not entirely by design, but it was in certain ways, wherein I decided to push my joining date to Jan. I really wanted an year off. One, because I was in boarding school while growing up, like in the last few years. So for 15 years, I was away from home. So I would just come back home for a month or two. So the whole part that I could actually come back home, spend time with family and a lot of my friends, that really appealed to me. And for me, I just wanted to explore and reflect back on what I did. So coming back to what I've been doing in the last year, it's been multiple things. One thing that I've been doing is I've started geeking out a lot in chess. So I did join an academy where I'm by far the oldest person. It's been great because in a way you're getting your ass kicked by 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds, and it's a super humbling experience. But you know that there's so much more to learn. The other things that I've been doing, I've been volunteering quite a bit with data.org. So here I'm just helping them evaluate different community projects so that the Rockefeller Foundation can fund them. So just something a little different. Otherwise, it's been a lot of reading and everything that I always wanted to catch up on, right from mythology to learning endgame moves for chess to like fiction to quite a lot of other things. The one big thing that does stand out is I decided to launch my podcast. So that's been keeping me busy, just editing it, just getting a guest on board, researching, and putting the whole piece together. So it's been a lot of learning for me.
So, by the way, we have listened to your podcast, and we find it endearing that your project is helping so many school kids listening to you. In fact, we wish we had something like this when we were growing up and we were clueless about anything and everything. But what has been your most favorite moment in the podcast so far, and who can we expect can come on your coming episodes?
Oh, thanks a ton for listening to it. So maybe I could just talk about how it started off. Uh, my mom actually runs a school, and she came up to me one day and she's like, "The kids have Zoom fatigue, so just doing math problems over Zoom is not really helping. So can you call some of your interesting friends to have a conversation, and that could really help reject their energies." So that's how the whole podcast started. It was just more like a conversation. And then when I was bouncing this idea off a friend, he's like, why don't you create that into a podcast? And like every MBA out there, I was thinking of scale. And instead of doing one chat, I decided to like launch it to everybody. And that's how the podcast happened. In terms of how it's structured, it's just topics that I would have been interested growing up and knowing a lot more about. So I've just called guests from different fields that I know. So the first one started off with a wildlife photographer talking about climate change. Incidentally, he was an NCRer. The second one was around an Ironman triathlete talking about goals. The next ones have been about passion and like things like art and literature and stuff like that. The next episode that's going to come out, hopefully in the next couple of days, is with this good friend of mine, Maureen. It's slightly heavier. She's actually from INSEAD as well. So the topics around race and racism, and it's a lot of conversations that a lot of people shy away from. So for me, conducting it, also listening to her speak about it, has been extremely informative, educational, and there's been a lot of de-learning and relearning. And hopefully, people who are going to listen to it are also going to like what's being spoken about. And the other episodes after that are around creating music and everything that I would find fascinating. So just the whole process of doing it, hopefully would help people listen to it. But for me as well, it's been great.
Prakash, it is wonderful that you are bringing out such episodes, and especially about such topics like racism. It's very important that we bring it actually to school kids during their learning years. So kudos to that. Congratulations on doing that. That's great. Also, Prakash, when we last spoke to you, you shared some wonderful reflections on your time at INSEAD. So we have to ask any pieces of advice you could share with us on our upcoming journey at INSEAD.
Cool. So firstly, when you have an year's time, most times what you do is you reflect because you have time on hand. So that's been great for me. In terms of the advice that I could actually give you guys, maybe I could talk a little more about what I've learned, and if you think that fits and that's something that you would associate or you could relate with, you could take that away. So in terms of INSEAD itself, when I was looking back, I realized INSEAD was a little different from most other schools or places that you can go study. The fact that they've careful, like once you take a step back and look at the entire experience, you realize that it's been carefully crafted right from day one when you get in, and how they make it like a community and wherein they make you very comfortable around people from everywhere. You realize that they teach you how to like overcome a lot of biases that you have, and the whole experience itself is crafted for you to unlearn and unlock your potential. So for me, in terms of the things that stood out, one is just understanding cultures better. So the thing that INSEAD does really well is they put you into a lot of these study groups other than the regular interactions that you have, and as part of these study groups they make sure that they're as diverse in terms of the careers that you've had before to the places that you come from. What it does is it helps you look at things very differently from how you generally process them. And I think that's been a great learning for me in terms of how I'm going to approach things going forward. So the whole study group aspect was great. The second thing that INSEAD's taught me, or people at INSEAD have taught me, is they've helped me understand growth and goals better. So a lot of times I would associate personal growth with progress in my professional career, wherein if I get a promotion next, I'm doing like super well in life. I've just realized over time that growth can come from different things. It doesn't have to be like your career itself, and you don't have to derive your identity from just your career. And those things have helped me like reassess and realign what is it that matters to me quite a bit. And for me, that's been that these are like really small intangibles, because when you're thinking of going to B school, a lot of times you act like a finance dude, wherein you look for ROIs and whether this number makes sense and you calculate your NPVs. I don't know what people do to make these decisions. But a lot of these intangibles that I did mention, like a couple of them at least, were the biggest takeaways for me. And one thing that I would encourage anyone who goes to a school is make sure that you talk to as many people, right? At the end of the day, it's those conversations that are going to stimulate something very, very different in your brain. And that's actually going to go a longer way than just learning about a quant heavy subject. So do spend a lot of time knowing your classmates, and would that is something you wouldn't regret, and that is something you'll take away and keep. And those relationships that you form go a really long way.
Prakash, that's such sage advice, because you're right. When we are kind of thinking about all the metrics and all the numbers around MBA, we kind of get lost in that and we forget the real reason why we wanted to come for an MBA in the first place was more about personal growth and, like you mentioned, goals. So thank you so much for actually putting this out and refreshing our memories about the different priorities and different goals that each one of us individually has going into this program. So, of course, Prakash, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for answering our questions, but we're not going to let you go that easily. We have this tiny rapid fire planned for you. It is simple, it's easygoing. Just, let us know the answers that pop in your head as soon as we ask the questions. Are you ready for the rapid fire?
I am. You guys are really making me feel like a celebrity today. So thanks a lot for that. And just go ahead and shoot those questions.
All right. So first, according to you, which is the most revolutionary technological invention created?
Computers. I think computers.
Okay. iOS or Android?
I'm just forced to use iOS because of the work that I've been doing. So it's always been iOS.
Okay. Which is the coolest student club in INSEAD?
I'll have to say TMT, but other than that, you have the wine club, which is good, wherein you're being educated about alcoholism. So you're just going there to have a few drinks. So that's a pretty good club to be a part of.
Great advice. If you could turn back time, what would you do differently during your MBA?
So I think I would make more time for travel. I did travel quite a bit, but a few more trips on the weekend and not just be lazy. That's something that I would turn back, and I would just take up one of those trips with a few friends of mine that I didn't get to travel with.
Got it. And the last question, since your podcast is directed towards school children, what would be the one thing you would tell your school going self?
I would just say, listen to my podcast. Travel in time. Because a lot of the conversations that I'm having are the ones that I would have wanted to know much better about when I was a kid, right? So at the end of the day, the real audience or the target group is myself. So I would just ask myself to listen to my podcast.
Congratulations, you have definitely done your MBA because you're selling your own product to yourself. You're really convinced about your product. Yeah, the MBA education is coming to you.
Yeah.
So Prakash, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for chatting with us. We are certain this conversation will be particularly helpful to our viewers.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, for having me on. It was a breeze having this conversation, and cheers. And anyone who's listening or watching the podcast, and if there's anything that you really want to know about my career or you want to reach out for anything, I'm always happy to help out. So, and I have a few months off, so I'd be pretty responsive as well. So just hit me up on social media, and I should be able to help you out if I can.
And it will also help if you subscribe to Prakash's podcast. We will leave the link of his podcast in our description box below. And thank you everyone for joining in. We hope you like this episode. If you have any recommendations or suggestions of what we could cover next, do let us know in the comment section. And as the tradition goes, please subscribe to our channel and like and share this video with whoever you think can benefit from it.